Okay, this is where we stand right now, and next we're down to probably within about an 1/8 inch of our pump face here all the way around, except these ears at the bottom. So our next operation is probably going to be turn this thing on the side, and I'm going to cut these ears off even with the front of the transmission pan and my sealing surface, and then we'll probably extend that line up to our pump face. And we may have to make a little adjustment here depending on how our bell housing fits. And the bell housing is cut out a little bit here, you can see, to fit over your threads in your case that hold the pan on. So our next operation is cut these ears off, and then we're going to take a 4-inch grinder, probably with a flapper wheel to start, and take this edge down to match the dimension of our pump face. So that's where we are now, and we can clean those faces up when we get the grinder out. getting closer, and like these areas are marked in red. I'm pretty much there. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm really close to that face. Here as well. In fact, here I'm a little bit behind the face, and that's okay. That's actually where I want to be, so that when we put this bell housing on, we're not in a bind between the pump face and our existing case. That'd be bad. So I've marked the areas. This one I'm not quite there, but I'm really close, and that's what I'll continue to do with the grinder until we get there. I'll work the top half, and then I'll probably put these bolts in, take the bottom ones out, and work the bottom half. Now the top is done, and you can see we got just a little tiny gap. I don't know if you can see that. Got a little tiny gap all the way around between our pump face and our case. And you're better off to have that little gap than to be right up against it. And you can see I've kissed this pump face several times with the grinder. And before we're gonna work on this pump before we put everything back together, and we'll block and sand this thing because the holes have O-rings around them to seal, and I want to make sure they're flat and not nicked up from the grinder and all our grinding work. So next I'll put these bolts back in, and we'll move down here. Probably use a grinder, and then maybe even use a file and knock this corner out back here. It's going to be impossible to get a grinder in there. So a little more grinder and file work and we'll be there. So there's a last look at it before we try our bell housing. There's what I did at the bottom, and of course when we get the transmission disassembled, we can blend this line. It's a little hard to do with the pan on it. We'll blend this line, make it look a little better. Alright. We are good. And I'll show you. I'll prove it to you that we're good. There is a tiny gap there. Now I got this utility knife blade, and I'll show you. In some of the places the blade probably won't go, but I still got a gap there. I got a gap there, I can see the blade just won't go. But I got a gap all the way around. I have a gap here, which is a issue. I do have a gap down here now. Hope you can see that. Move you around a little bit. I do barely have a gap there. I can see daylight all the way through when I looked at it. I've got a gap around this side, but it's tight enough that it doesn't look like a hack job did it, and that's what I was shooting for. So now one of the cool things I was going to tell you, and maybe I did tell you. It's been a couple days. The nice thing about this bellhousing from BTE is it fits on our pump face and gives us an SFI bellhousing for drag racing. But if we decide that we want to go to an upgraded transmission case, the whole case, so you don't have to run a blanket or a scatter shield, because blankets add heat or they retain heat, and the scatter shield is probably going to make you beat up your transmission tunnel to get it to fit. What we can do is buy BTE's case, and that's right now these bolts are holding this adapter plate on to fit our pump. But if we bought their case, the adapter plate would come off and these bolts will bolt straight to their case. So if you buy this bellhousing, decide you want more case later, you're already halfway there. All you've got to buy is the case. And you know, most bellhousing manufacturers, the aftermarket stuff, it's not going to give you that option. Most of their cases and bellhousings are proprietary, and their stuff is going to fit their stuff. I'm not going to mention brands, but another brand's bellhousing, they're not going to offer you an adapter plate to mount it to your case. They want to sell you the whole thing. So I think BTE's got a good thing going. Haven't heard anything but good about them. This is my first experience with their stuff, but I am impressed. So we're gonna get this thing cleaned up, take this back off, and start our disassembly. That's probably gonna be our next video. So hopefully you'll stay with me, and we'll work on this thing together. So see you next time. Thanks for watching. Very first video. Hit the like button, subscribe, whole 9 yards. See you next time. Thank you.